And you are good to go, Vice Mayor.
Thank you so much, Tiffany, and welcome everyone to the May 6th EEAB meeting. We are going to call this meeting to order at 6:31, and I will ask Ms. O'Brien to please call the roll.
Rabbi Kathy Cohen. Miss Patisse Holland.
Present.
Reverend Bill Lee.
Present.
Miss Angela Penn.
Present.
Mr. Darrell Rhodes.
Present.
Dr. Elda Downey.
Present.
Mr. Peter Watson.
Present.
Councilmember Bill Bespich.
Present.
Vice Mayor Trish Whiteboy.
Present, and a quorum is present. I want to thank you guys again for joining us this afternoon. It's going to be a quick meeting. We have just a few things to cover. The first thing that I want to do is item 1 on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our April meeting. You were sent those minutes electronically, and I hope you all had a chance to read them. And I will ask at this time, do we have any corrections to those minutes? Seeing no corrections, I will ask that the minutes be approved for the April meeting as distributed. Moving on to item A, the committee reports. We have really had some good meetings. I'm on the subcommittee for trust, and we are moving right along. So I wanted to ask if you guys had any questions or needed any clarification on your subcommittee meetings. I understand that Reverend Lee is doing well. Bill is on that one with service delivery. Ms. Penn is doing well. Robin hit the ground running. Is there anyone that maybe need a little bit more assistance or has some questions or need some guidance on where you need to be going with your subcommittee? Well, that's good, because we're going to ask you to report here in just a little bit. In fact, that is the next item on the agenda. I'm going to go down, starting with trust, Patisse. And if you could, just for those that are watching us Facebook Live, remind everyone when your subcommittee meets and what we're doing, and kind of give a report for your last meeting. Now, I know you had a meeting prior to that. You had one in April. So if you want to combine the two and just give us an update on what the trust subcommittee is doing, that would be great. And also give the meeting date and time in case someone wants to join us for that.
Certainly. So I am chairing the trust committee, and Madam Vice Mayor also is serving as our vice chair. Our secretary for that committee is Mary Bishop. She is, I think she's not present today, but she certainly has been a great asset to us in helping to record our discussions and minutes, which have been previously submitted to Ms. O'Brien for this board. We meet the first Tuesday of each month at 5:30 p.m. Via Zoom. So that has been working very well for us. We have now had 2 meetings in the past 2 months. So we are very excited about our work together. And everyone had, the first meeting, we had all full members present. As a result of the storm, we were missing one of our members because of some communication issue with Cox. However, we were able to have everybody else on board. Briefly, what we discussed in our first meeting, which are the minutes that have been submitted thus far, we of course did introductions. We also talked and went in great depth the detail in our charge. We discussed our charge, each members, the reasons they wanted to join the trust committee. We talked about one of the largest issues we talked about first in our meeting, the initial meeting, and also our second meeting, was the need for a public apology to the citizens of Roanoke, and how that looks, the way we are going to be communicating that. And so we will be coming back to this board, hopefully in the next couple of, we're planning a couple more meetings, but we're going to be coming back to this board with a recommendation for that, because we do believe that trust is a key factor and component in building this path to restoration, healing, and also looking at our charge, that it's a very important part of what we are doing. So that's important for us. And we've been discussing that now at our last 2 meetings. We also talked about local policing and reports of disproportionate traffic stops of African Americans. And we recently, I'm reporting now on 2 meetings, by the way. Our most recent meeting, we have approved the assistance of another group that is going to be helping our subcommittee on this issue. And they have been gathering statistics and data to bring back to our group. So that next meeting will be in June, to report back to us on what statistics and data they have compiled and what, if anything, we can do with that information. So that was another important thing that we discussed both at our initial meeting and also the meeting that we had this past Tuesday. We discussed some other issues that we really think are more appropriate for other boards and other subcommittees. So what I will be doing is looking at those issues and sending emails to those of you who are chairing another committee that we think maybe it's more appropriate for that to be passed on to you. But another thing we discussed on both our first and second meetings was diversity on nonprofit boards and grant making in the city of Roanoke, and how just to ensure that there is diversity and access to information for citizens of Roanoke. So that was something else we are exploring. We plan to have folks who are responsible in the city for those for certain grants come before our committee to discuss the process, the application, how that information is communicated, again, back to access. We believe that access is a huge, important piece of equity. And so we want to make sure that we are understanding those processes. So that is some of the other things. And lastly, we talked about, how we reach our residents, millennials, and people that are not millennials, a little older, how we're effectively being able to reach folks. So those that are watching on Facebook, we want to make sure that we have an ability to receive your comments and questions and concerns, and that also you can hear from us as well. So we're working on making sure that that is a streamlined process that we can all benefit from. And that is pretty much a report for 2 meetings. And so next time I won't report on the second meeting again, but that's what we discussed on our first and second meeting. Our second meeting minutes will be forthcoming.
Thank you so much, Ms. Holland. And I'm glad you mentioned the fact that there are some charges that we are going to pass on to some other subcommittees, because as we're having our discussions, we realize that there's so much that we want to do and so much that we want to cover. And it's going to take us a while, so we don't want anyone to get overwhelmed. What we've decided to do, as you've heard from Ms. Holland, we've actually chosen a couple of issues or tasks that we want to address that we thought were priorities. So I would just pause a moment just to say, just take a deep breath, prioritize all of the information that's coming in from whether it's from the public or these public hearings. And that's another thing that I mentioned in our meeting the other day, is that we are also going to be getting additional information as it comes in through the public hearings. So our goal is to try to make sure that people are engaged, because that's where we're going to get our charges from the public and from the community. So I would ask that if you have an outlet or conduit of some sort, whether it's your church, other organizations, or family and friends, if you could share what we're doing through the EEAB and let them know about the monthly meeting or about the subcommittee meetings, so that if there's something that they have that's pressing or concern or an issue, please let them know that we want to hear from them. And the more we hear from the community, the more we hear from our residents, the better we're going to be able to serve them through this board and to reach them through the EEAB. So I appreciate your report on trust, Ms. Holland. And I will ask that the chair or a representative from Breaking the Cycle of Poverty report next. And you can just follow the same format, if you will. Ms. Mitchell.
All right, thank you. So the Breaking the Cycle of Poverty subcommittees, we have been meeting regularly since the our initial meeting post orientation. And so since then, we have had our subcommittee is comprised of Shion Baker, Kathy Cohen, Dr. Deneen Evans, Mr. Jarrell Rose, Javion Tucker, Aaron Washington, and myself. And since then, we've also had Michelle Davis, who has come on just as to serve in an advisory capacity and see how she can help us with some collaborative efforts. Through our meetings, we have adopted a regular schedule and where we meet every other Tuesday at 6 p.m. Also from those meetings, we have designated myself as chair. Dr. Deneen Evans is serving as our co-chair, and Kathy Cohen is serving as our recording secretary. Our first meeting was held on March 25th at 5:30, and it was thereafter that we established that meeting time of alternating Tuesdays at 6 p.m. We are currently in the process of reviewing the policy and action items from the comprehensive plan. And our next steps are to build discussion around this and to begin clarifying and refining how we want to approach those prioritized actions. We are planning to consult with city staff, community members, and organizations as needed for assistance and feedback and collaboration, as well as consulting with city officials for advisory and approaching some of those action items that are listed within that Breaking the Cycle of Poverty policy. We are currently in the process from our last meeting reviewing the GARE Racial Equity Toolkit, as well as the One Virginia Diversity Toolkit. And we plan to use these toolkits to develop a more organized approach to tackling those action items that are listed within our policy. And so our next meeting is going to be this upcoming Tuesday at 6 p.m. And we're just geared up and ready to work. And we're looking for anyone who wants to collaborate with us. Feel free to reach out. Once again, this is the Breaking the Cycle of Poverty subcommittee. So if that is an interest to you, please reach out and collaborate with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that you mentioned the fact that you're going to be reaching out to staff and public officials or whomever it is. That I want you guys, all of the committee chairs, to know that you have access to the directors, the staff, anybody, the police chief, whatever it is that you need, we are at your disposal. And if you don't get a hold of me, you can reach Angie, because in fact, we are going to ask Keith Holland, who facilitates the community block grants, to join us at one of our meetings. It may not be the June meeting because we already have someone coming from the equitable policing to tag team with us. We're calling that a special project because it's so much that we're trying to cover. Ms. Holland, is so smart. She said, we'll just call this a special project. So we're going to let this organization continue to do what they're doing because they're already working on equitable policing. So if there's an organization that's working on poverty or has already done some research or has some data that would be useful to your committee, absolutely bring them on, because it is a lot. And I'm so glad that you're taking your time, you're looking at the toolkit. And that doesn't, everyone does not have to use that toolkit. That was something we thought would be useful because we have used it, but you don't have to use that. If you found another mechanism that might work for you or some other framework, that's fine. We just want to get it done, but it is going to take some time. And so I'm glad everybody, because when the first couple of meetings, I was going like this because, I felt like, we're supposed to be doing this and we should know. Well, actually, this is brand new and we're all working our way through it. And so I appreciate your patience with me. I'm certainly going to be patient with you. I'm just truly grateful that you all are willing to serve in this capacity because it is a lot. So thank you for that update. And we look forward to hearing from you. The next would be neighborhood choice. And I think that's, is that you, Rachel? No. I'm not sure who that chair is. Let me go back. Mr. Secretary, do you have who that chair is? I don't see, I don't have my notes. I'm just looking at my agenda. I have to use my agenda on my phone because my printer was.
Angela Penn. Angela, aren't you chairing that one?
Yes, I am chairing that one.
Oh, okay. There you are. I'm sorry. I was like, okay. Ms. Penn, thank you. Are you prepared to go forward with an update for neighborhood choice?
Yes, I am happy to do that. So for neighborhood choice, the subcommittee has met once. We met on April 13th at 4 o'clock via Zoom. We have determined for leadership that I will serve as chair. Our co-chair is Bernard Johnson and our secretary is Alicia Grubb. We will be meeting on the second Tuesday of each month at 4 o'clock p.m. At our first meeting, we took the opportunity to go through the GARE Racial Equity Toolkit, and we determined that we will be using that toolkit as we progress through our work. We spent quite a bit of time going through each of the priority areas in the comprehensive plan, making sure that we reviewed and understood each of those areas. As we began discussing, each member of the committee determined or stated what they were interested in terms of the priority areas. And so we came away with the fact that we would like to look at the first two priorities together because they really kind of dovetail together, but also looking at the third priority, which really is something that we felt we could get our hands around, and that is providing resources about information for financial resources for those in areas that had been traditionally redlined. We're now using the term greenlining. And so we're looking at putting together a resource booklet that could be provided to members of the community about finance opportunities and options for home ownership should they be interested in that avenue. So that is one of the first areas that we will be working on to make sure that we can get that out. And then of course, rolling up our sleeves and digging into priorities number 1 and number 2, which are very large. So we will begin that discussion at our next meeting on Tuesday.
Thank you so much, Ms. Penn. You are absolutely correct. Those are very large. I mean, there's so much that we want to cover, and those two committees, break the cycle of poverty, along with trust, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot that we're going to have to cover, but you've done an excellent job setting up your framework, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. And I will say this, if there's any subcommittee that wants to take a break and bring us in or have us meet with you prior to your next meeting, just to make sure that we're flowing or on the right track, please let me know. I'm sorry that I had not mentioned that sooner, but we are certainly at your disposal. We didn't want to just put you out there and say, okay, you guys go ahead. It appears you're doing an excellent job, all of you as chairs, but I just want you to know that if you feel like you want to regroup and get back with the city manager or with me or with Mr. Bestpitch, since we kind of have an inside, please don't hesitate to do that. We want to if you need us. So now I will hear from the chair for inclusive culture.
That's me. Thank you. Inclusive Culture Subcommittee is meeting the third Friday of each month at noon. And so we've only had one meeting so far. Phoenix Kisi has agreed to be the secretary, and Ahu Salam is the co-chair, and I'm the chair. We started off with before we met, we started off with a little survey, just picking what each of us thought might be the top priorities from the comprehensive plan for our section for those policies. Not as necessarily intended to be the first step in prioritizing them, but to be a starting point for discussion. So then we had discussion, and during the discussion, we realized that there is a lot happening already in the community and that we need to basically have an inventory of that. And so we need to do a lot of learning about what's already happening related to our topic. And as part of that, we are hoping that Josh Johnson, the new neighborhood coordinator, will be able to join us for our next meeting to to tell us about what's going on. And we are also going to be looking into that toolkit, the gear toolkit, and just familiarizing ourselves with it. So then we can make a decision if that is the framework we want to use.
And if it's not, it's certainly okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I think that's the main points that I wanted to mention.
Thank you, Ms. Rulon, for doing that. I remember when we spoke initially, you had something else going on, so it appears to be working out for you. I know you were kind of okay. Just wanted to make sure because I know you had a lot going on initially. So it seems like you guys are moving right along. And Reverend Lee, service delivery.
Okay, I chair service delivery. We have met twice. In our first meeting, we elected, Tiffany Helm volunteered to be co-chair, and Marlene Hamlet is serving as our secretary. Our regular meetings are the first Wednesday of each month at 4 o'clock. Our first two meetings, the first meeting, I want to make sure that everybody was brought up to speed of the primary focus of the Service Delivery Committee, and then walking us through the strategic master plan of the city and those three policies and looking, and we're going to do this every time we meet until people pretty much have that ingrained that this is really our marching orders, that we don't have to reinvent anything. We have it really before us, and that's where we're going to do our work. With that said, we called on Councilman Bill Bestpitch impromptu and had him walk us through the community development block grant funds, how they are received and used, because it just bubbled up real quick, and he was able to do a masterful job with that. After that meeting, the end of that meeting, it was discussed that if we're going to do our work, communications was a critical piece. So we invited Tiffany Bradbury to meet with us on yesterday. And so she walked us through how the city communicates with its citizens. That was quite eye-opening, and it's a great learning experience for all of us, how information is disseminated and then how information may not be, but Tiffany did a great job in giving us that information. Right now, our priority is communication, how things are communicated. So my committee has the task for the next month to actually go on the city's website and actually work with that website, see how that website communicates to us, especially the services that the city said is delivering. Is it an easy process? What difficulties you have? But we're going to try to work with the website for the upcoming meeting to just see how that works for us. We know there'll be other city personnel that we'll need, and Angie has been very good by telling us you need this person, and that's who we'll plug in. So I think we're moving in a good direction.
Thank you, Reverend Lee. I'm glad you mentioned communication. When COVID first hit, the city manager wanted us to have these community forums, and each council member had a group of people, some small businesses, some the residents, some large businesses. The one issue that kept coming up as an issue that was impeding people from getting the information they wanted was communication. And so we have talked about communication so many times, you guys I know are definitely on the right track when you mention communication, because we have so many services, and actually this came up in a meeting that I was in with the mayor yesterday, and they said, well, that's great, you have all of these wonderful services, but nobody knows about them. And that's because of our communication. So we realized in the city that there's a problem with communication. So I'm real happy to hear that you guys are going to be taking a look at that and hopefully coming back with some recommendations. And another thing that came up was the 40 and old, 30, 40 and older are Facebookers, but anybody younger than that are not on Facebook anymore. So it made me feel really old. But you know, I sucked it up and said, okay, you know, I'm getting older. You know, they're on other stuff now, Instagram, and I think we talked about that too, Ms. Holland. You know, you guys are on the right track. I'm so excited. This is getting more and more exciting. I just have to take a deep breath and try to, you know, relax it and work through this process. But I'm telling you, I'm just so excited about what the work that we're doing and the work that we're going to do. So all of those reports were excellent reports. Next on the agenda is item B, and it says here recommendations regarding renaming Lee Plaza. But I think that we will all agree that in our last meeting, we decided to table the vote until we came up with a conduit to reach our residents, and that we determined would be a survey. So the survey was sent out in draft form, and there were no changes to it. And I'll give Angie a second to do a screen share for us. So if you haven't seen it in a while or don't remember what it looked like, we're going to do a screen share so you can take a look at the survey. And tonight, if you approve with what you are going to see as far as what's going to go out to our residents, then our next step will be is to go ahead and send out the survey. Did we lose it, Angie, that fast?
I'm getting it. Hang on just a sec.
So we'll wait for her to get that up. But so far, no other names have come in. We're still with the same, you know, four or five names. And we decided there was one recommendation that came back on the draft to add a blank. And we just said, no, we're not going to do that. That would be way too confusing. We've had the public hearing. We've already done that. So I will stop talking and I will let Angie scroll very slowly so you can see this survey if you have not seen it. Thank you, Angie.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Angie, could you bump the font size a little bit? Is that possible? If
I
not,
don't think so in the screen share. I don't think I can make it any bigger.
Not in the screen share, unfortunately, Mr. Watson.
I was trying to see if I can make it a little bit bigger, but I don't think I can in the screen share. Okay, so I'll walk you through this. And this is the survey that we would be sending out here at the beginning. It's just got a little bit of an introduction that talks about the public hearing that was held on Thursday, March the 4th. And where the citizens were invited to give their input. The date on here will be modified. This is when we were thinking we were going to send it out a little bit sooner. So we'll give the survey about a week before the next EEAB meeting. On the choice, we made it very simple, and we're asking folks to please vote for their top choice. And we have the first option is Henrietta Lacks Plaza. And we also have a link to take you to information about Ms. Lacks. Then the other name that came up more often than the others was Sherman Lee Plaza. So we also have a link on here to Mayor Lee. And then the two concepts we have listed on here that came up the most were Freedom Plaza and Star City Plaza. The only other question is the zip code, and I don't know if you guys want to put this on there or not, but this is just to find out where the survey reached the most folks in the city.
Okay, so there you have it. Are there any recommended changes or anything you think we should do differently? Also, Angie, can you let them know how we're going to get this out? I know it's going to be on the website. It will also be on, will it be on your Instagram page?
Yes, so what we're going to do, we will send it out through all of the forms of communications that we use here at the city. So we would be sending it out to the media. We'll send it out through social media using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We'll probably send it out through Nextdoor. Of course, the survey can be shared by you all or anyone else in the community who is wanting to get folks to vote on one of these options. So those are the methods right now, unless you all have another recommended way.
And you will send, it will come to each member of the EEAB and the subcommittee members. So everyone on the committee or subcommittee will have access to it, and we can share it with whomever we want. I mean, we wanted to get it out there to as many people as possible, and we're going to leave it out for about a week.
Yes, ma'am.
So one question, for those names that were brought forth that only just one individual, so their names were dropped. So if you didn't get multiple persons wanting that, you dropped the name.
If it were just one recommendation, because
Okay.
we had a lot of those with just one name, we did drop
Okay.
those so that we could try to
Okay.
narrow it down.
Okay, thank you.
There may have been a couple other names that were shared maybe 2 times, but these were the ones that had the most shares to us. Whether they came in through email or through the public hearing, either one of those.
Angie, you might have mentioned this and I might have missed it. What will be the deadline for folks to complete the survey, or when will it close?
Well, it's going to be a week, and I will just interject, Angie. It depends on whether we vote on this tonight to accept the survey as is or with whatever modification, and then we will set a date. It will be a week from that date.
Thank you.
Yes, and we're prepared to send this out tomorrow if you all approve it.
If I may, I move the approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and is there any discussion about the survey at all? Okay, Angie, we will do a voice vote. All in favor of accepting and approving the survey as written, just say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion has passed, and the survey will be accepted as written, and we can send it out tomorrow. And it will, once you get it, please share, please share. That was one of the last item. Actually, that was the last item. We have reports and board members, but we've already done that, and we had some really, really good reports. I will open the floor for any other discussion, any comments, any concerns, anything that you want to say, because that is the last item on our agenda other than the announcement of our next meeting.
Ms. White Boyd, I will let you know that Tiffany let me know that she's heading up the Equity and Engagement Advisory Group with the city, and it'll go out through that as well.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. If we can get it in as many places as we possibly can. Is that what you saw in the chat? Is that what's in the chat? None. It says, will this survey be sent to non-technical citizens? I'm not sure what that means.
You mean in paper form, Patisse?
There is a question on Facebook.
That's the question. I think it's if you don't do internet, you don't do Facebook or something, how are you going to be able to?
Well, it will not be sent out in written or mail form. It will not. I do know that for sure. So it will be electronic. Now, what method, we will try to get as many as possible. And, we will send it to the church secretary if we need to, or if your church or however we can get it out, we can, because we did not put anything in a budget for mailings, and it's pretty expensive to do that. And unfortunately, we did not know that this discussion would come to a survey. So this is the way.
Madam Chair, they have a comment from the host saying we can make it available for people to pick up at the municipal building, or they could call for a copy of the survey if they
Yeah.
need it.
And see, that would still require having to make copies of it. And we don't know. I mean, if somebody came and asked for a copy, they might be able to do it. But see, we're not having a public. I mean, we're not open to the public yet, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the clerks are not even there full time. They have 2 at a time. They're still in rotating schedules. So I don't want to commit to something that, without having prior approval or say, yes, we can do that without further discussion. But I do know that we're going to try to get it out by every means possible electronically. Is there another different question? Oh, okay. That's the same one that you brought forward, Ms. Holland. I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to do that at this time. So we're going to stick with the methods that we have already selected, and we will just push it out as fast and as hard as we can for over a week's time. And if there are not any other questions, is there any comments or anything else that you guys want to talk about? I don't want to rush, because I know in the past I've tried to stick to the 1 hour schedule, and we're way ahead of schedule. I knew this would be a short meeting. Our next meeting will be June 3rd at 6:30. So again, I appreciate the awesome reports. I'm really enthused about what we're getting ready to do and what we've already done, and look for the survey to come out tomorrow. And please share. If there are not any more questions or any other questions or comments, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, and we are adjourned until June 3rd of next month. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you. Y'all
Thank
take
you.
care.